Hi there, I'm Clayton with HayBoss Feeders, and if you're watching this video, that means chances are you've purchased one of our feeders. So I just wanted to thank you, and I'm excited for you guys to assemble it and get using it and see how awesome they are. In your packaging, there's going to be bolt bags and instructions, and in those instructions is going to be a picture of the tools that you need and a picture of all the hardware that comes with it. So I'd like you to open up your instructions and just double check, make sure you have all the tools that are going to be needed to put the feeder together, and double check once you open the bags that you have all the hardware that you need before you get started. We took the shrink wrap off of our XL feeder. We cut the band in. Now, when you cut the band in, one thing I want to mention is make sure you have someone holding the two panels together, because I only had one panel, only this side is screwed to the 4x4s. The other one, if you cut the band in, it's possible that it could tip over. So just make sure you have someone holding it so it doesn't tip over when you cut the last banding. Take off your one floor side and unload the rest. So you can see we unloaded the rest of this feeder, and all we have left is the roller frame, the handle frame, some roof connecting bars at the bottom here, and one of the floor sides. For shipping, we attach the two frames together. So all you got to do is take a 3/4 inch wrench or socket or impact and undo these two bolts to separate the roller frame from the handle frame. Keep your bolts and your nuts that you just pulled off, because you're going to need those to assemble your roof later. Grab your roof channels. That's these two channels that are wrapped together. You could cut those and separate those. And now you have your 4x4s and your shipping 4x4s that are screwed to your last floor. So with your Phillips or your star bit, you could use a screwdriver, or I prefer something with a battery on it, and just take those out. Now that we have all our pieces separated, we are going to assemble our floor. Our two floor halves, we're going to put our two floor halves together, and we're going to do that by laying the floors down, upside down, on something level. Line up our channels. You'll see that this center panel has a slot in it right here that's going to allow this angle iron to fit inside of it. Go to your bolt package and grab 6 5/16 carriage bolts. Okay, so they're 5/16 by 5/8 inches long. You'll need 6 of them. Put the 2 here, and then one goes on the bottom side, and you do the same to this side. Two on this side and 1 on the bottom side. Okay, so just turn your bolts, make sure that your square end of your carriage bolt is in line with the square hole. Tap it in. We'll flip the floor up on its side. Okay, I made sure my carriage bolts on the back side were all the way in. I tapped them in, and now I'm just going to tighten all 3 bolts on each side. Now we will put the floor back on its flat. And now we have to install the legs. How you install these legs determines how high your feeder is off the ground. There's 2 positions. We recommend that if you're feeding with feeding horses, elevate it, go 27 inches off the ground, which looks like this. So you would put 1/2 inch bolts through your skid and your leg. And if you're going 16 inches off the ground for goats, sheep, llamas, whatever you choose there's 2 more holes that you'll line up on your skid that'll be here. So for this feeder, we're going to set it up for horses. We're going to go 27 inches off the ground. So go into your bolt package, grab your 1/2 inch by 2.5, install all your outside ones. Okay, now we have our center bolts to do. Those are the 1/2 inch by 4 inch bolts. Now we got all of our 1/2 inch bolts going through the legs and through the skids. Next, we need some 1/2 inch bolts for our stabilizing bracket. They go from the leg to the skid, and it acts as a stabilizer. You have three left-hand ones and 3 right-hand ones. Okay, they're different. And you'll see they're only gonna go one way. This side here with the notch out always goes to the leg, okay? So I'll show you on this side how to determine which one goes to the leg. Okay, so you see that notch out there, that goes on the leg, and then there's a hole to go to the skid. Okay, so go ahead, install those. Okay, when you put these middle brackets in, it doesn't really matter which bracket you have. It'll go on both ways as long as you have one separate from this side to this side. Start your bolt, stick your bracket in between both legs, put your bolt through. Once you got all your brackets started, then you could go ahead. I'm gonna use an impact to tighten these out because there's lots of them, and with the ratchet it'll take a long time. So I'm gonna use an impact. It's gonna be noisy, but it's gonna be easy. So now we have all our bolts on our legs and our leg braces tightened. We are gonna flip the floor on its side now. Next step is you go into your bolt package, look for your 1.5 by 3/4 inch bolts. You're gonna use 2 on each side, bolts and nuts, okay? Your gusset, and it's gonna bolt on, this face is gonna bolt on to your floor on the back side. So you'll see there's holes in your floor here. It's gonna bolt on to your floor, and these big holes these bolts are gonna go through these big holes and through your frame and through your other frame, your handle and your roller frame. So I'm gonna grab my handle frame. So this is what your handle frame looks like. It's the plainest one, and it only goes on one side. Your handle frame is gonna go on the side that has fork pockets, okay? Only one side has fork pockets, and that is the side that you're gonna put the handle frame on. So, for you guys to see, we got fork pockets there. This handle frame is gonna go just like that. So you see your 2 big holes? Handle frame is gonna go like that, and your gusset is gonna go behind it, which braces to your floor and sturdies your whole feeder, okay? So, with help, you got a gusset, you got a bolt. Get one guy to put a nut through one of the holes. Put the gusset in place, and then start your nut on the back side. Okay, well then we'll do the same to the roller frame on the other side. Okay, so now you got both of those in place. We are going to tilt our floor up until this is at a 90 degree to each other, and then we're going to install this top bolt, or this bottom bolt here, the remaining bolt, okay? Okay, so we have our 3/8 by 1 inch bolt. They go on the roller base, through the roller base, through the skid. Okay, once you got those in, tighten them with an impact or a wrench, 9/16. We're gonna tighten our big 3/4 inch bolts using an impact with an 1 1/8. All right, that's the next step. Okay, next step. Next step we have to install our round-headed 3/8 by 2.5 inch bolts. They go through the floor and through the gusset that we were talking about. Our gusset bolts are tight. Now we're going to tighten our end frame bolts, the big 3/4 inch bolts where you use 1 1/8 socket and wrench. Now that we got those bolts tightened, next step is building our roof. So we're going to build our roof on the ground. We're going to need the 2 roof panels and the center panel. Okay, so there's going to be 3 panels together, 1 in the center, and then the 2 with the channels on the outsides. And the easiest way to do that is to build it on some blocks. So I'm going to put 3 boards down, about 4-foot boards or whatever you have. I'm going to put those down and I'm going to set my roof on top of that, okay? Okay, we have our 3 roof panels in place and we have our 2 roof channels in place. Okay, so they're here ready to assemble. Notice when we put these channels on the roof, that's going to attach all 3 panels together using some carriage bolts, 5/16 by 5/8 carriage bolts that go through these 2 end ones, through these 2 end ones, and through this bottom one. Okay, so this square hole goes on the bottom. So you'll see these 2 big round holes and this square hole goes on the bottom. The top of the roof doesn't have any holes in it, okay? So you're gonna make sure that this panel, the left panel goes on top of the center panel, as well as the right side goes on top of the center panel, okay? Then you're gonna install these center brackets, and that's what's going to hold the whole roof together. Okay, so we put our roof together on the ground. We got all of our carriage bolts started. Now it's just a matter of tightening them up. There's 5 on each side, 10 total. Go ahead and tighten them up. I'm going to use an impact on the 4 and on the one for the center roof panel. You're going to need a wrench to get in there. Roof's all tightened up. Next step is to attach the roof to the frames, so to the roller and to the handle frame. Okay, so to do that we're going to need 4 1/2 inch bolts with 4 washers and 4 nuts, okay? 4 flange nuts. So I just want to show you the underside of this roof here. As you'll notice, the underside of this roof has these bars on it, okay? These bars are to attach to your net, and these cables attach to your net, and basically it stops any animals from being able to pull your net down, or it also keeps your nets running parallel with each other and nice and vertical. So these are handy, they work well, but for them to work well you have to install your roof properly. And that being said, when you install your roof, you'll notice that these bars kind of point towards each other or make an arrowhead. Basically make that arrowhead or these 2 bars point towards the roller side, okay? So when you install your roof, this has to go on the underside of your roof, pointing towards your roller side. So one thing to know is a flat washer has to go between the frame and the roof, okay? So it goes frame, washer, roof, and then your nut. Next step is we're going to lift this frame up, and that is going to hang this roof down, making the roof parallel with the floor. Okay, once you got your 4 bolts in, grab your impact or your wrenches, and with a 3/4 inch socket, tighten it up. Now all our bolts are tight. We're going to flip the feeder back on its legs. Next step is installing our center floorboard and the 2 outer floor channels, okay? So that's this 5-inch piece of board. You'll stick right in the middle, stick the good side up. Okay, so we got our center floorboard in, and now we got to just attach these floor channels. So they go over the 2 other big floor channels here, and then you need 4 round-headed bolts with 3/8 nuts. The floor is all tightened down. All the bolts are all tight. Roof's on. Next step is this tool tube, okay? So this tool tube is going to get mounted on your roller side. I'll turn the feeder so you can see a little bit. It's going to go on your roller side. And in this tool tube, what's in there is you're going to have a chunk of net that comes wrapped up in the nets that you have bought to go on the feeder. So that spare chunk of net, you could put in this tool tube, okay? In the tool tube, there's some zip ties, hog rings, hog ring pliers, everything you need for a little repair kit. Put the chunk of net that comes with your nets inside this tool tube. Stick a knife in there. Put a knife in there so you always have a knife. And when it comes time to cut your twines, you're never looking for a knife, okay? So let's install this tool tube. You're gonna have 1 5/16 by 1 inch bolt with a washer that goes at the bottom. And then you got 2 5/16 longer bolts, 2-inch bolts that go at the top. So okay, so I got my 2 bolts in, and you'll see on the roller frame, there's 2 holes here. Put it on the roller frame. It could only go in one spot. Once you got them started, you could go ahead and tighten it up. Be sure not to over tighten it, being it's plastic. You don't want to wreck it. Okay, I got my 2 nets on my floor. I'm going to unroll one of my nets, and I'm going to show you how easy these nets are to install onto your new HayBoss feeder. So unroll your whole net. Take your Velcros off your rollers, okay? So these Velcros are what's going to hold your net bars onto your rollers. So just take them off for now and put them on the side. Maybe we'll just throw them on the floor here for now. Now this net, the way you put on this net is it has to go through, it has to be placed between the roller and the frame, right? So it's going to come right this way. So it only goes on one direction. So you got this angle iron, so you feed it through, and you have this aluminum angle iron. You see how you got the cables connected to the inside of the angle iron? Okay, so the cables run through and they're connected to the inside of the angle iron. On the outside of the angle iron, there's nothing, okay? So that's the way this net goes. If the cables were on the outside of the angle iron, you'd simply just pull this net out, flip it end for end, and then install it. Okay, so make sure your cables are on the inside, connected to the inside of the angle iron, and then you grab your angle iron, insert it into the top bracket that's on your roller. Then you pull out the middle, and insert it into the bottom bracket. Okay, so once you got that and you're happy with it, you can make sure that you have all your slack is evened out throughout your roller. And then put your Velcro strap back on. Okay, so that side's done. That roller side is done, and then simply attach your net handle into the base and then latch it in, click it into the handle latch there. Okay, so we're going to do the same to the other side. And there you have it, your nets are on. Now all you got to do is take your bolts out of your rollers, your roller discs. It's holding it preloaded. So I'm going to do that with a little sawhorse and a 7/16 wrench and a socket. Okay, so what you should do is get your helper to pull the net tight, and when you pull this bolt out, it won't wind up on you if you have someone holding the net back. Okay, so when you see that the net is pulled good and tight, you could undo your bolt, pull your bolt out, and then when your buddy lets your net back in, lets it roll up, the net rolls up on the roller itself. Okay? So here's the hint. Keep this bolt in your tool tube. If you ever need to change a net out or repair a net or pull a net off, all you got to do is get someone to pull the net out, or you can pull it out yourself. And you'll see there's a hole in this disc here. All you got to do is put the bolt in from the top through the disc, and then when you let it go, put a little nut on there for safety, let it go. Now you could do, now it holds the tension on your roller, and now you can take your nets off and you could do anything you want. You could repair them, flip them, change them, whatever. We took the bolts out of the rollers, released the tension. Now the rollers are spring loaded, and as the animals eat, this roller is going to roll up any slack that you have. And the nice thing about that is you could put this feeder on a fence line and you could feed 2 paddocks with one feeder, because even when it's empty, it acts as a barrier between the 2 pens, okay? Okay, so I'll just talk a little bit about these roller locks. They're right here. Okay, so basically to disengage them, or when you're loading your feeder, all you got to do is pull back and tuck them up so that they are not touching your roller anymore. So basically you pull back and down, which locks them in the non-operating position, okay? And what that does is allows you to pull the net out, okay? So you can pull the net out and it rolls back in easy. These locks you disengage them for loading your feeder. As soon as you're done loading and you're ready to leave, just flip the lock back down. And what that does is it ratchets and only allows the net to roll up and not any animals or a bale to fall over and fall out of the feeder, right? So the animals can't pull your net right out, and a bale can't tip over and fall out. So basically, just make sure that when you're loading, your locks are disengaged. That'll allow you to pull your nets all the way out. And when you leave, make sure your locks stop your roller from pulling out. Okay, so thank you for watching my video, and I hope you love your feeder. All right.